You gave too much power to people who proved they never deserved a single piece of you. And you know that's true, even if you've never said it out loud. Because somewhere inside you, in that quiet place you don't let anyone see, you can still feel the echo of every moment you reacted too fast, every moment you rushed to explain yourself, every moment you revealed parts of your heart to someone who treated it like nothing. You can still feel the weight of how much you've tried, how much you've defended yourself, how much you begged to be understood by people who had already decided they wouldn't understand you. You keep replaying the moments when your voice trembled, when your chest tightened, when you felt yourself shrink in the presence of someone who fed off your confusion. And even now, even in this moment, you can feel the heaviness of that truth sitting inside you like a bruise you've carried for years. You knew the signs. You felt the red flags brushing against your skin long before the truth shattered. Felt the subtle shifts, the silent punishments, the emotional withdrawals. The way they made you doubt what you saw. The way they made you question what you felt. The way they turned your own mind against you until you weren't sure whether you were remembering things correctly or losing yourself slowly. That's how dark psychology works. It doesn't break you loudly. It unravels you quietly. It uses confusion as a weapon, manipulation as a mirror, silence as a leash, and guilt as a cage that locks from the inside. You are conditioned to react instantly because that's how they controlled you. You were conditioned to rush because urgency kept you too busy to think clearly. You were conditioned to reveal everything because the more of yourself you exposed, the easier you were to predict, to weaken, to shape, to use. Emotional abuse doesn't always look like yelling. Sometimes it looks like the way they subtly twist the story so you feel like the villain. Sometimes it looks like the slow drip of self-blame they train you to swallow every time you try to stand up for yourself. Sometimes it looks like them, withdrawing affection, connection, warmth, until you panic and chase the very person who's hurting you. That's trauma bonding. That's attachment held like a hostage. It's a human behavior shaped by fear and longing colliding in the same place. You learn to doubt your own reactions. You learn to silence your own instincts. You learn to explain yourself to avoid conflict even when you weren't wrong. And you learn to give parts of your soul to people who only showed up when they needed something to feed on. But here's the truth. You've always felt, but never said. Reacting quickly made you predictable. Rushing made you desperate. Revealing everything made you vulnerable in all the wrong ways. The people who thrive on manipulation, the ones who understand the shadows of human behavior, the ones who know exactly how to twist your emotions, they count on that. They count on your softness. They count on your empathy. They count on the way you rush to fix things even when you didn't break them. They count on the way you over-explain, overthink, and overlook your own needs because you've been trained to keep the peace. Instead of keeping your dignity, you weren't weak. You were conditioned. You weren't blind. You were hopeful. You weren't naive. You were trying to love someone who only understood power, not connection.
Ow.
Dark psychology thrives in spaces where people don't trust themselves. It thrives in silence. It thrives in shame. It thrives in the place where you're so busy blaming yourself that you don't notice how deeply someone else is shaping your emotions. But listen closely now, because this is where the shift begins. This is where the calm enters. This is where you reclaim the parts of yourself you forgot you had. Never react. Not because you're cold, but because your emotions are not a weapon for anyone to pull the trigger on. When you stop reacting instantly, you stop giving people access to your inner world. You stop letting them push the buttons they installed. You stop letting them control the outcome by controlling your response. Silence is not weakness. Silence is clarity. Silence is where manipulation starves. Never rush. It's not because you're indifferent, but because time is the only thing that breaks illusions. When you slow down, you start to see who's honest and who's performing. You start to see who panics when you stop chasing them. You start to see whose interest was real and whose interest depended on your confusion. Rushing makes you blind. Patience makes you powerful. Never reveal. Not because you're hiding, but because privacy is emotional armor. When people don't know what you feel, they can't twist it. When they don't know what you plan, they can't sabotage it. They don't know what hurts you, they can't use it. Mystery is not manipulation. Mystery is protection. And protection is how you rebuild the self-worth you lost. You have spent too long letting the wrong people shape your mind. Now, you learn to shape it yourself. You recognize the mind games. You see the manipulation patterns. You understand emotional abuse for what it is, instead of blaming yourself for it. You learn to listen for the silence between words. You learn to recognize the difference between someone who cares and someone who collects your weaknesses. You learn the difference between love and control. And you learn the difference between loyalty and self-sacrifice. You rebuild boundaries slowly. You stop apologizing for having needs. You stop explaining your worth. You stop chasing people who treat you like an option. You stop letting guilt make your decisions for you. And you stop letting fear keep you small. This is where the power returns to you, quietly, calmly, without force. Without noise, you reclaim your emotions. You reclaim your decisions. You reclaim the parts of yourself you gave away just to feel understood. You are not obligated to be accessible. You are not required to justify your pain. You are not here to fix people who break you. You are not meant to carry relationships that rest entirely on your effort. You are meant to protect your heart, your energy, your inner world, your peace. And if you ever doubt your strength, remember this: the fact that you're still here, still listening, still fighting to understand yourself, means you survived things most people will never admit they went through. It means you carried storms inside you without letting the world see how hard it was to stay standing. It means you're stronger than you know, wiser than you think, and far more resilient than the people who hurt you ever believed. Never react. Never rush. Never reveal. Not as a shield of coldness, but as a promise to yourself. Tell never again hand your power to people who only wanted to use it. And as this ends, breathe slowly. Feel the weight leaving your chest. Feel the truth settling into the place where confusion used to live. Feel yourself rising in ways the past version of you never thought possible. Because you are no longer shaped by the people who tried to control. You are shaped by the strength it took to finally see them clearly. And with that clarity, you become untouchable.